Okay, you ready?
Ready.
Ready.
Okay, you know you don't have to believe it, you don't have to accept it, you don't have to believe it, you don't have to accept it, you don't have to welcome it. Some of the stuff I say is going to be hard to believe. And some of the stuff is going to be quite startling. It's not about analyzing it, it's not about judging it. If you use it, you'll see that it works. If you use it, you'll see that it works. If you use it, you'll see that it works. If you use it, you'll see that it works. And if it looks like it hasn't worked, it means even though you may think you haven't used it. So if you're not getting the result that you want to get, you haven't used the material. So that means there's hope.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, it's kind of discouraging to think you used it and it didn't work. That's discouraging.
Yes.
But to believe that you haven't gotten the result because you haven't really used it, even if you think you have, gives you hope.
That's right.
Okay, so there's a little bit of this section I'm going to talk about first. It's called the ego and false autonomy. This is the section that answers the question, how could you have ever made your ego? How could you have ever made a part of you that doesn't wish you well and doesn't take care of you and screws you up and gets you in trouble and always got you wondering what the hell is going on? Where did a part of my mind like that come from? This is in a section called Ego and False Autonomy. If you got the book, it's on page 56.
56.
In the text.
I need one of these.
And what I'm going to do is bring the Course in Miracles as best I can to life. Almost like it's a conversation so we can hear the message that we're getting. Now, when the Course in Miracles says the ego and false autonomy, for the word and, you can substitute the word is. The ego is false autonomy. The ego is the false idea that you're on your own taking care of yourself. That you're separate from God. How can you tell when you're listening to the voice of your ego? You don't feel better. When you get through whatever the instruction is you just gave yourself, you don't feel better. You don't feel more peaceful. You don't feel more centered. So that's how you can tell if the advice that you're giving yourself is coming from your higher self, is that if it's coming from your higher self, it lessens your fear, it makes you feel more centered, and even if you don't know what's going on, you're okay about it. People ask me that often. I can't tell the difference between when I'm listening to the voice for God and my own voice. It's very easy to tell, but you have to know what the voice for God would say to you first. Does that make sense? I need to know what the truth says before I can say I'm not hearing it. So the Course teaches you what the truth says. So let's go. I love it. It says it's reasonable to ask how your mind could have ever made your friggin' ego. I'm gonna do a little embellishment. In fact, it's the best question you could ever ask. There's, however, no point in giving an answer in terms of the past. I'm not going to give you any answers based on your past. I'm not going to give you any answers based on your past because the past does not matter. Your past doesn't matter. So we are officially retiring your story and my story today. I don't want to hear nothing about your past. It doesn't matter. I'm not going to tell you anything about mine. It doesn't matter. And history wouldn't exist if the same errors weren't being repeated right now. History is nothing but the same repetition of the same mistakes we've always been making, which is being separate and attacking each other. We just did it in a variety of forms in the past because we love variety. You know, I can hurt myself through you and hurt myself through you, but the truth is, rather than dealing with you, I need to deal with the idea that I think I need to be hurt. That's the idea I need to get corrected, not focusing on you. Okay. Then it says, let me close that up. lot going on back there. Abstract thought applies to knowledge because knowledge is completely impersonal, and so examples are irrelevant to its understanding. If it's knowledge, it applies to everybody, it's impersonal. If it's truth, it applies to everybody. So truth is impersonal. Truth is impersonal. If I create my reality, you create yours. If what I'm feeling is coming from what I'm telling myself, what you're feeling is coming from what you're telling yourself. The truth is impersonal. Perception, however, is always very specific. So the truth applies to all of us, but perception is always focusing on certain things specifically. Like right now, you may be focusing on my voice specifically. You might be focusing on my body specifically. That's perception. It focuses on things specifically. I thought I caught somebody focusing on my butt. Specifically. No, that's okay, bro. That workshop really worked yesterday. We bonded, didn't we? We're going beyond all those gender things. I tell you, spending the whole day working with men is an interesting thing to do. Powerful.
Welcome to our
Powerful. You talking about, yeah, welcome to your world, lady.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
But it's like getting a lot of mirrors. It's like looking at a lot of mirrors of yourself at the same time. So it really kind of speeds the process along if you really communicate. And these incredible men did the unthinkable. They communicated.
Sweet.
Really communicated. We had
Oh,
to burn.
goodness,
I burnt the whole recording. It's gone.
Yeah.
Never to be seen again. So there are 4 points in that first paragraph that stuck with me. That the best question you could ask is, how did you make the part of you that seems to cause you pain? The next thing we heard was, don't be looking for answers in terms of your past or the past, because the past doesn't matter. And that you wouldn't even have a history if you weren't doing the same things over and over again. And if it's knowledge, it applies to everybody. And if it's just your way of seeing things, your perception, then it applies specifically. So any perception of way of seeing things that I'm making up would be any perception I had that was specific. So if that's true, I'm making up everything I see, because I have specific perceptions all around me. Okay, so point number 1, you're making up everything you see. You're making up everything you see. You're making up everything you see. You're making up everything you see.
Boom.
Open your eyes, come and save me. Or would you say there is no time?
You are making up everything you see. You're making up everything you see. You are making up everything you see. You're making up the sound you're hearing. You're making up that sound that you're hearing. It's in your perception. It's specific, so you're making up the perception.
All we know is nothing. From this path we will not sway. For we see no other way. Distracted minds. Nothing we see.
Distracted mind, yes.
Do you have to take DMT or some other kind of drug to get what you just said?
Not necessarily.
Okay, good. Just checking.
Not necessarily. Because what I just said was that if it's the truth, it applies to everybody. And if it's my perception and it's specific, I'm the one making it up because I'm the one that's interpreting what I'm seeing. So I'm making it up because I'm interpreting what I'm seeing. If it's the truth, it applies to everybody. You know, if it's the truth, it applies to everybody. If I'm giving everything I see all the meaning it has for me, you're doing the same thing. If I'm creating my reality, you're creating your reality. If I'm not alone, you're not alone. If you're determining your world, then I'm determining my world. The truth applies to everybody equally. Yes.
So is that why why someone can see a glass and one person says it's half full and the other person says it's half empty? The perceptions are different?
Yeah, and the only thing that's true is that there's something there that you're calling a glass,
Okay.
and everything else is up for grabs. Because even calling it a glass is a judgment. That's a description. So we don't realize that the world is just made up of descriptions we've been given since the day we were born. That you're just all day long we're just giving descriptions in terms of what we were taught since the day we were born. So the truth is, if a person was really telling the truth, then there's only three things happening with anything in your life. Either what's happening is true, what's happening is false, or you don't know. Anything else is a story. And whenever you say anything about another person's thoughts, feelings, or emotions that aren't yours, the only accurate perception is I don't know. So as soon as you say anything about anybody else and you think it's true, you don't really know if it's true or not. So when you talk about something outside of yourself, I don't know would be the same honest response. I'm standing up here in front of you. That's true. When I give you my opinion about me standing up in front of you, that might not necessarily be true. I feel like I'm not really reaching you, or I feel like I'm reaching you too much. Well, see, that's not necessarily true. That's my story. But what's true is I'm standing up in front of you talking, and you're appearing to listen. That's what's true. That we seem to be sitting here in this room listening to this guy talk, and everything else is a story. That's your ego. Your ego is the story you've made up about your life that you're living right now. It's your own script. So instead of arguing with that, why don't you become a better screenplay writer? Well, what would be the ultimate screenplay? It would be the screenplay that was created for you by God. Yes.
Like, does that mean that we have to throw the critic out the door?
Yes. If you really want to be happy.
Okay.
Yeah. The inner critic has to go. Unless you're willing to listen to it objectively and not condemn yourself for what you're hearing yourself tell yourself. So then you can listen to your inner critic as long as you don't use it to beat yourself up. An inner critic that's beating you. Like one of the principles we were learning in the and How to Be a Magnificent Man, I changed the title, was that men sharpen men. And one of the ways that a man can receive more masculine energy from his world is for him to be willing to take the criticism of another man that he asked for the criticism of without getting angry.
Whoa.
Because when you do that, it increases your masculine power as a man. And so your ego could be used to increase your masculine power, which we all have, male and female, our power to assert ourselves, to get out there and get something done. You know, everyone makes an ego for themselves. Everybody makes a self for themselves. Everybody makes up who they think they are. Agreed? And this self that you make up, it's subject to enormous variation. You notice you make up this self, but it just constantly seems to change, right? You know why? Because it's unstable. It says because of its instability, we continue to go through all these various changes about our image for ourselves, because our image of ourselves is not stable. We don't have a stable, consistent way that we look at ourselves. And since we don't have a stable, consistent way that we look at ourselves, our lives appear to be unstable. So all the instability in a person's life is coming from the various different ways they're seeing themselves. Now, here's the part I don't like. It's okay for you to make an ego for you, but the Course says you also make an ego for everybody else you see, which is equally variable. So I make up the way I see me, and that constantly changes. Then I make up the way I see you, and that constantly changes. And so I look at myself as being unstable because I'm always changing. And guess what? I think you're unstable too, because I made up an ego for you, and it's always changing. It's scary, isn't it? If you hear what I'm saying, it's scary. I'm making up an image of myself that may or may not be true, that I'm treating myself like I'm that way. And then unfairly to you, I'm making up an image of a perception or an ego of you that I'm constantly changing all the time and dealing with.
I had no idea how mean my ego was.
Oh, you
today.
I'll tell you got a mean ego.
I have mean ego.
Me too, but my ego meaner than yours.
Mine's mean.
My ego is really mean.
Ego, my ego.
My ego.
My ego is in the Ego Olympics. It has about 18 gold medals. I'm the Michael Phelps of the ego world. Did you imagine that? This guy's won 18 gold medals in the Olympics.
Yeah.
And then now he's playing golf. He was on Jay Leno the other night. Don't tell nobody I watch TV. Okay, he was on Jay Leno, true students, spiritual students don't watch TV, they never admit to it.
Yeah.
So he hit a 156-foot putt. It was the longest putt that's ever been recorded in professional golf.
Oh, wow.
He's a natural athlete.
He's boring.
He's just in his
If you're that good at everything, what he actually, in addition to being a natural athlete, that's what he's choosing to experience.
Yeah,
He's
He's choosing to experience what he's experiencing. It's coming from what he's making in his perception. So you're seeing that he has a perception of himself that he's some type of an Olympic champion, and we have a perception of him that way too that constantly changes, just like the book is saying. Then it goes on to say this interaction is a process that alters both egos, because egos were not made by or with the unalterable, which is God, which is simply saying to us, when I have an image of myself and I have an image of you, and when I think about you and I think about me, it's an interaction that's changing the ego. Like every time I think about you, then I give you a new ego. Like I said, you don't like me. That's just me projecting the ego on you that doesn't like me. Then I could go, you know what? Patrick does like me. He gave me a good hug the other day. Now, to notice, I haven't talked to Patrick.
Right.
So I went from being upset with Patrick, that Patrick knew nothing about because he was over partying. And then I turned around and then I changed my mind about Patrick and I said, really, I like Patrick. Patrick was nowhere in the process, but my thinking about his ego changed it. Isn't this scary? When you really hear what I'm saying,
Yes.
you gotta realize everybody around you doing that to you. Everybody doing that constantly to you. I got this opinion of Earl, and I thought he was a really cool teacher, but I don't know, sometimes he talks sexy too much. I'm with Earl, and I think he's with, but today he didn't talk that way, so I think maybe he's getting it under control. In the meantime, Earl might not be thinking about that at all, but might be. You know what I'm saying? Let me get the whole thought out, then I'll be glad to answer questions. Because the Course in Miracles, when you're hearing it, does bring up questions. It's kind of like how you can tell somebody's hearing you. Because if you're telling somebody the opposite of maybe everything they've ever heard, it would prompt them to go, what? And then if somebody's not hearing you, sometimes it prompts them to say nothing. Because they didn't hear what you said no way. So what question should they ask you? They ain't never heard what you said. Okay. So I understand. But I love the truth of that statement. That I'm making up an image about myself, and then I change my image of myself all the time. And then I deal with myself as if I'm my latest image. Then I make up an image of my mama. You know how I knew I was making up the images? Because there were 7 of us, and all 7 of us had a different perception of our mama. You would think we were talking about 2 different mothers. My sister would tell me her experience with my mama, and I swear it was another person she was talking about other than the experience I was having with my mama. Why? Because my sister was dealing with my mama's ego that she made up, and I was dealing with my mama's ego that I made up. So we were literally never relating to our mama at all. We don't even know who our mama was behind our image. I never asked Mama, what do you feel? Like Course says, we make up God, and then we make up what God thinks. And then if we hear something different from what we told ourselves that God thinks, then we say God is wrong. It's like, you know what I'm saying? It's like you make up an image of me, I tell you it's not true, and now I'm the liar. Because I'm not the image you've made up of me. It's just that God says that's what we do with God. We make up God, get mad at the God we made up. and then don't go to God. Now, there's no such thing as God. Now, God is a bunch of crap. Because I grew up in a Southern Baptist church that was full of fear, I'm going to throw God out with the bathwater. Like my mom said, don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. But that's what I did with God, because I didn't like the fearful concepts of God. And the idea of God being a man in the sky that punishes you forever. So I just threw out the whole concept. And so now, every time someone uses any of those terminologies, I freak out because I'm still what? Creating an ego for God. I'm creating an ego for the truth. And then I'm interacting with it. Wow. So I'm going to get to the question. The end of this paragraph is a trip. Then it says, it's important to realize that this alteration can and does occur as readily when the interaction takes place in your mind. It's when the interaction involves physical proximity, like I have with y'all right now. Thinking about another ego is as effective in changing your relative perception as is physical interaction is going to change your relative perception. Thinking about you is going to change my perception of you, and then hanging out with you tonight is going to change my perception of you, right? Don't you get it? He says the change is happening as much as it's going on in your mind as the change is happening if you're dealing with the person on a physical level. And then it ends with, there could be no better example that the ego is only an idea. The ego is just an idea. It's not a fact. You're just making up images for yourself and everybody else, and then dealing with those images as if they're true, so they're reflecting themselves back to you just like any image would, because it's a mirror. Woo! But the people on the other side of your images, your judgments, you never have seen. I realized I'd never seen my father. Because I saw my father when I was growing up as a person who appeared to have a problem with alcoholism, and so he became his alcoholism. I never knew Joe. I just knew my image of him based on the things he was not doing according to my role for what a father should be doing for me. So rather than realize he needed my help, I was just busy having grievances because he didn't keep his promises to me with my unselfish self. I was just judging him for being so selfish.
Yeah.
So I'm going to therapy to Now, questions in a paragraph. Yes.
So,
Your finger came up like a knife.
I find this interesting because you were saying I find this interesting because I was saying that what we were saying here, that he also makes an ego for everyone else he perceives, which is equally variable. So I have two categories. Like, I either perceive you as a threat or not a threat.
Yep.
But that is directly in correlation to how safe I feel within myself. Because if I feel safe, then you're okay. But if I don't feel safe, then I'm like,
I'm a devil.
yeah. I'm like suspicious. I'm like, he's out to get me.
What am I thinking?
Yeah.
Coming to this class and talking this strange stuff. And he's black too. But if you're feeling good that day and you're feeling optimistic and you're feeling loving, you have a different perception of me that day.
And you're still black.
Yeah. It was kind of like a total commitment in this life. So nobody can say I can't make commitments. I'm totally perfect.
You're
capable.
chocolicious, baby.
That's all the Lord have mercy. See, that's how you can tell when someone has the correct perception. You're not hearing you do, chocolicious or something like that. It's your ego.
Yeah.
Because your ego gonna call your ego gonna say you something else other than something sweet and juicy and loving. That's how you can tell the difference between your ego and God.
Yeah.
Your ego tells you the stuff that makes you feel crappy and afraid and crazy and doing stupid stuff that keeps you in whatever you're going through, which I was an expert at. And there's the voice that makes you feel inspired, more centered, more clear, and that's how you tell the difference. It is uncomfortable. What's the fuck? You're telling yourself something and it feels good, but it's really the wrong thing. You will find out.
Yeah, eventually.
And then you start paying more attention to the content of what you're telling yourself. You start really paying attention to what am I telling myself right now. And beside that, I would invite you, instead of using your mind to try to come up with a way in which I'm wrong, or might not work, or there's a flaw in my logic through the course, what if you turned your attention to remembering that you are experiencing egos that you're making up? And so therefore you could have a different experience of your whole life if you merely changed how you were perceiving. Why don't we focus on that instead of how it might not work? I'm just throwing it out there. I love all questions and I'm okay with that. But to me it's like, why would I work so hard to find a flaw in the premise that frees me? Why am I working so hard to find a flaw in something that says I deserve to be free and I'm innocent and I don't have to allow myself to be affected by all these egos and perceptions and images that everybody else is projecting on me that has nothing to do with who I really am, so I can go ahead and live my life the way I want to, simply because nobody's seeing me in the first place unless they love me, because it's only the people that love me who can see me, because the people who love me don't judge me, and since they don't judge me, they actually see me. And then the rest of the people who are projecting on me, why don't I let them deal with the projection of me that they're having, and then I can go about my business, you know what I'm saying? If you want to hurt yourself through your projection on me, well then, that's you getting exactly what you deserve, because that's how you're choosing to see me, but I didn't have anything to do with it, because that's your projection of me. So your feelings are hurt because of something I said, not because I said something that hurt your feelings, but because you're the one that decided I hurt your feelings by what I said. I can't be responsible for that when everybody's doing that. I won't even get nothing done. There's some movies I want to see. I don't have time to spend all my time trying to deal with everybody's projections about who they think I am and what I should be doing. So he's telling me the ego is just an idea. The way you're seeing yourself is just an idea you're making up in your mind and then giving yourself whatever feelings you're giving yourself based on your idea of yourself. And if your idea of yourself is that you're guilty and not really deserving love, right, then that idea, like any idea, is going to manifest in your perception, because all ideas create perception and reality. So then you realize, wait a minute, then that means God hasn't been punishing me. The infinite intelligence of the universe hasn't been doing anything to me. It also means that none of my brothers and sisters have been doing anything to me. So now, that instead of me beating myself up by saying, oh my God, I must be doing this to myself. Instead of you going to that place, which is where the average person goes, how could I do that to myself? You know, then you could realize that since they weren't the ones who've been hurting you, be with me for a second, get this. Since that your brothers and sisters were not hurting you, you were projecting, and because God is not against you, because you were projecting on whatever you thought God is, then it means you have someone to turn to for help. If I really am not the person that's writing in you that you're trying to make me out to be, then I actually could possibly be a person that could help you now, because you don't see me as trying to be harmful to you. If I was wrong about God and my idea of the higher power, and I was taught fearful things, and I don't agree with those fearful things that I was taught, but those were just other people's ego projections, their beliefs being projected, right? Then maybe there is a higher power, but I just don't know how to communicate with it. Because everything I learned about communicating with something greater than myself was wrong. It was based on the premise that you were praying to a man in the sky.
Yeah.
So you were praying to something that doesn't exist, but that doesn't mean God doesn't. You just don't know how to communicate, which the Course is teaching us how to do. How? By teaching us the difference between truth and illusion. How? By telling me that I'm making up egos for everybody around me, and every time I think about you, I change my mind about you, and then have a different perception of you, and you have a different perception of me, and then all I'm dealing with all day is perceptions. But behind all of our judgments and perception, there is a reality of me that really exists beyond your judgments of me, beyond your stories of me. Somebody's standing in front of y'all. That's true. But I am on the other side of your beliefs about race, your beliefs about men, your past experiences you've had. I'm on the other side of all your judgments about what I should be saying, what I shouldn't be saying, how I should be dressing, how I should be looking. I'm on the other side of your projections on me. And then the Course in Miracles says, well, how can you tell when you're really seeing a person for real? Well, he says you'll scarcely be able to fall on your knees and crying because what you're looking at is so beautiful and moves you so much. Nobody's done that for me yet. So nobody see them. Yeah, it's getting close. See, y'all make me be naughty up here.
Trust,
Leave me
trust,
alone.
trust.
Leave me alone. Leave me alone.
Hey,
I know, so to speak. So,
Earl, just stand there and we'll just and do nothing, and we'll hear our hot minds projecting on you. We'll feel it, right?
that's right. Thank you.
Pause for a moment. And,
Thank you.
And if we know that's true. Right?
Yay.
Yeah, right? I want some stranger to walk in right now.
And then I get to doing this and say, Kool-Aid anyone? Then you're like, ah! I know I shouldn't come to this class with you.
Yep.
No, I wouldn't say cognac anyone. Okay.
Okay.
Any questions about that paragraph before I went off? Yes.
So, the whole point of the course is trying to communicate to us is by correct perception, we are actually freeing ourselves and others from our projections of ego.
Exactly. And as soon as you do that, you free yourself. Because everything is a reflection of what you're giving out in your experience. So when you drop, and you know what's really cool about it? It's really giving up something, a right you never had and you were never accurate about anyway. So it's not like the Course in Miracles is asking me to sacrifice anything. What is the sacrifice about me giving up wrong ideas about you that are not true anyway, that keeps me from having a peaceful relationship with you that will serve both of us? Tell me the problem with that. Well, I'm afraid somebody's going to hurt me. I feel like without my judgment, then people might take advantage of me. Right? That I need to use my judgment. If I don't use my judgment, then somebody's going to hurt me. But then when you get objective of your experience, you realize the only thing that's ever hurt you has been your judgment. That's the only thing that you've ever been experienced pain from was your own judgment, not somebody else. Other people are not concerned enough with you to try to use their time to figure out how to hurt you. You're not that important to them.
Your family.
Not even your family. They're not thinking about you all the time. They're thinking about their own personal lives.
Yes.
And you are thought about in terms of how it impinges them, or every now and then, yes, out of their love for you, they'll think about you. You're the one that's most concerned with your image. You are.
Yep.
Nobody else. That's why when you decide to change into give you an image that the Holy Spirit tells you about, and you love that image of yourself, everybody else will be glad that you finally did it, because they were not concerned anyway, and they probably thought pretty cool about you anyway, so they was never caught up in your process that you were making yourself unhappy about anyway. Most of the time when you're looking sad, everybody else is just looking at you look sad. They're not really into your sadness with you.
Right.
Because you're busy with your solution. What do you mean, my solution? Well, your solution is that you should hurt and be punished and never feel good and have lots of conflict because you think you deserve to be punished for some unknown crime you think you committed that you don't even remember. So you're busy doing that and everybody's watching you. Now they're showing you their love because they're not smacking you upside your head for doing this so much. They're not physically attacking you pretty much. Even if your family says something, they just do it for a little while and then you leave and it's done. But even when they are no longer doing it, you're doing it on the way home, and you're doing it before you go to bed, and you're doing it when you wake up in the morning, and you do. So nobody's going to whoop your butt as good as you do. So there's no need to worry about the devil. Nobody's going to do it to you as good as you do it to you, because you're the one who knows what you think your weaknesses are, so you know where to attack yourself the best. And if you want to make sure you attack yourself, you got a surefire plan for making sure that happens. And the Course says, what is that? You attack somebody else. You judge somebody else. Do you think God would create a world where when you are asleep in your bedroom at night in your house, a sinkhole open up and sucks you into the sinkhole and
Yes.
kills you while you sleep?
Yes.
No, that's how you know God didn't create this world we're seeing. Nothing that loves you does that. But if you are really in an amusement park having an incredible ride, you create a house with the sinkhole ride. Because in the end, you don't die. So you survive the sinkhole. But you know that if you're a spiritual being, you don't know that if you believe you're an ego. Because you have an image of yourself that says you're limited, you're mortal, you die, you can be hurt, you're on your own, nobody loves you, you can get sick. That's our ego. And that image is what we're identifying with, and it's scaring us, and it's painful because we know that's not true. You know you're more than what you think you are. You know you deserve more happiness than you're giving yourself. You know your life is supposed to be exciting and joyful every moment. You know it's not just supposed to be about how I'm going to make it to tomorrow. We know that, but we're making up an image that doesn't know that. And then we're listening to that part of us that doesn't know that. And on top of that, we're putting that part of us in control. So the stupidest part of me is giving me guidance.
Oh my God.
And then I wonder, well, where am I hurting? You're listening to your own ignorant mind, separate from the mind of God, inside. I just go to sleep.
Together, Chief.
Talk to me, baby.
So, I think the reason I like to rely so much on my ego is because it's making up a story always of what's going to happen next.
Mm-hmm.
And when I listen to God and to Spirit, I don't know. And that scares the crap out of me.
Do you know that I don't know is the first stage that happens after you take a specific action to solve a situation? Do you know that when you actually do something specifically to make a change, that the natural next stage is a stage of unknowingness because you've made a shift and you don't know what's going to happen? So really that I don't know stage is the stage that proves to you you're doing something. So what do I do in the I don't know stage? You realize that that means you are clearing levels of blockages in your consciousness. And then realize that next, after those levels are cleared, you're going to relax into the truth. So you might be, so people who are seriously trying to make a change in themselves, and they're really intense about that the most, those are the people, you can tell when you're in second stage unknowingness, spiritual growth, because there's a phrase that you use. What the hell is going on? Now, if you find yourself saying that high spiritual sentence, that's the clue that you're evolving in consciousness. And if you're saying what the hell is going on all day, stop bragging. Cut it out. Slow down. Go to the movie.
Yeah.
Do something meaningless. You know.
I don't know, it's also the world of infinite possibilities.
That's right.
Yeah,
Thank goodness.
yeah.
That's what makes me excited. Is to think that there's infinite possibilities. I got a brand new. I had such an epiphany yesterday on so many levels. That was such an intense day for me on so many levels. That it was perfect because the thing I walked away with for myself, because I gave it for myself, was a recommitment to my teaching ministry and my purpose for doing this. It made me really clear about what I love and what I feel like I'm here to do. And I needed to get that cranked up. You know how you do something for a long time?
Yes.
Even though you know you really like it, sometimes, the juice kind of go a little bit out of it for you, but you still really, really like it. That was beginning to happen to me because I want to be more outrageous than I am in order to evolve. And I was making myself too concerned about the images that would be projected on me if I was really being myself.
Yeah.
That's a new thought, isn't it?
Mhm.
Being concerned about, the fancy way of saying, I was concerned about what y'all think of me.
Yes.
And I know what you're gonna do. You're gonna stay, or you're gonna go.
Yep.
Now, where would my ego come in? If I judged you for that.
Yes.
That's the only place my ego would come in. The truth is, when you evolve or you go to another level of your real expression, those who are meant to be there will be there. You won't have to convince them. You won't have to do anything. And those that rightfully so, like I said, rightfully so, innocently so, will leave. When I don't love myself and I need their validation,
Yes.
then I'm going to try to hold on to who's leaving,
Yep.
which is going to be painful because I'm deceiving myself.
No.
Because nobody who's leaving me wants to be with me.
Right.
That's why they are leaving me.
Yep.
So if I try to hold on to them, I am not dealing with the truth. And it hurts me when you don't deal with the truth. That's where pain comes from. You're not dealing with the truth. They need to move on. It's best for them and best for you. Now, I can say that intellectually, but emotionally, I found myself attached to people and things. So I could kind of get at them intellectually, but emotionally, I wasn't able to let them go. And then the Course told me, well, the way you emotionally let someone go is you have to reinterpret it. And I go, what do you mean? And Spirit always answers me because after 35 years of doing the Course, I'm either really hearing the voice for God or I'm psychotic or something.
Right.
And I got multiple personalities and I need help. But I believe it's the voice for God. I'm going for that one because every time I listen to it, everything's turned out in a peaceful way for me. So this track record is pretty good. So I'm going to go with it, you know. But if you are now at a point in your life where you're conscious enough to let go of the images that you made of yourself, if you choose to. The easiest way to do it is to give it a different interpretation, which is forgiveness. And the Course says that would be me saying, whoever or whatever I'm attached to, releasing them and them being gone is for my own best interest. Because anything you believe is benefiting you, you're more willing to let it happen.
Yes.
So the way you let go of something that you're having a hard time letting go of is to look at it in a truthful way. And a truthful way would be to recognize that if it really was supposed to be there and it was to your advantage to be there, whether it was a job, a person, a relationship, a situation, or a circumstance, then it would be there and nothing could stop it from being there. You can't lose a lover or mate who wants to be with you. You can't lose them. Sometimes you try hard and you still can't lose them. Right? Could it be that simple? Is the question Spirit always keeps asking. Could it be that simple? So, what kind of ego are you making up for you? Now, your own state of mind is a good example of how the ego was made. When you throw knowledge away, it's as if you never had it. It's so obvious that you just only need to recognize it's the truth. If you throw something away, it's almost like you never had it. If I take that microphone and throw it away, it's like I never had it. So you have a lot of knowledge that you've thrown away, but you really have it. So I'm going to say something really awesome. You're smarter than you think you are. You're more conscious than you think you are. You're more evolved than you think you are. You're more loved than you think you are. You're more supported than you think you are. You're more innocent than you think you are. You're more cherished than you think you are. You're being helped more than you think you are. You just got an ego, and I have an ego that we made up that's telling us that's not true. And then we're looking through that ego and looking at only where it looks like people are not doing what we think of as supporting us. And we're ignoring everybody that is. I can't tell you how many times I've sat in front of women when I was, especially in my 20s and 30s, and because I got into this New Thought stuff when I was 23. And so it's been 40 years of dealing with it. And I can't tell you how many times I've sat in front of somebody and I was listening to them describe the kind of man they wanted, and I was sitting right there in front of it and they didn't sit in front of it and they didn't see it or desire me. Have you ever had that experience where you were sitting with somebody and they was describing something that they wanted and you would be sitting there and you'd be exactly what they were asking for, they didn't even see it?
Yes.
See, one of the reasons why I got on the spiritual path is I wanted to get to the point where I could recognize love when it was in front of me.
Yeah.
So that when somebody was really valuable and worthwhile for me to connect with, I'd know it, so I would know to do it right then, right there, with everything I got in that moment to let them know. And then if it didn't happen after that, I knew that it was for their own best interest and my own best interest, and we both were innocent. But I couldn't know that for sure until I fully offered who I was. As long as I was holding back, I couldn't be sure. But if I could not hold back, and then how can you tell when you're not holding back? You're not holding back when you're willing to support that person's freedom and their happiness, even if it doesn't include you.
Yes.
Okay, so how do I know I'm not holding back in my love for this person? Because I love them so much, I want them to be happy even if it's with somebody else.
Yes.
So I'm fully loving you enough to give you away. You don't even see it, which means I'm not the one. And you're not the one in that instance. And we both, notice I keep ending on, and we're both innocent. Because I need to save some time. So if I can know who's really for me and who's not at the very beginning, I don't have to go through getting involved and then finding out later that it's not the right thing and then spending all my time trying to get out of it. Because I don't know about you, but it's always been easier for me to get in relationships than to get out of it. It's like there's a part of me that can jump in a minute. But when I need to let go of something, my own attachment a lot of times keeps me from letting it go, because I'd be thinking, what could I have done different? What could I have done better? How could we make, because guilt kicks in. And then I think I gotta try to make up for something that I did. But maybe I didn't do anything wrong. Maybe we just learned as much as we could from each other at the time, and we just needed to go our separate ways, but we're both totally innocent. Why do we need to make each other feel like something's wrong with each other just because we decided to do it different? But I used to be like that, because I thought if it didn't happen with that person, it just couldn't happen at all. They was my last shot. Besides, the way I feel about you makes me not want to let you go. Well, if I love you and you really wanted to go, I'd let you go. So I really know it's not love that's joining me to you, it's fear that's joining me to you. And I don't want a relationship based on fear. So when you study this book long enough, that's how you can tell when you're listening to the Holy Spirit. That's how it works. After a while, it teaches you how to tell when you're dealing with what's real and what's not, so you can start making intelligent choices about what you should do, which cuts down on your pain because you're not deceiving yourself. And you can't do that without studying the spiritual practice. You'll never be able to do that on your own, making it up as you go along, kind of getting a little interest in one thing and trying to get a little interest in another thing, but never really focusing on spiritual practice. I promise you, unless you Buddha or something, you're not going to take yourself past that ego you're making up without help. And then people say, well, where's the help? Here it is right here. I told you your ego was going to try to jam you up, so why are you shocked that you're feeling so unhappy right now? I told you your ego was going to try to make you feel unhappy, to make you feel like what you're trying to do isn't going to work. So why are you acting like you ain't getting guidance? I told you were going to try to screw yourself over. So why are you figuring out, say, I told you. So you did get guidance. And I also told you what to do, Earl, so that you could avoid that. But you didn't do it.
Yes.
You listened to the other voice that I told you not to listen to. And guess what? You're totally innocent. And I'm still here to save you anytime you're ready. But here's the kicker. It's when you're ready.
Yeah.
Because you have free will.
Yeah.
Until you decide you'd rather be happy than be right, I can't give you the answer to what you want because you are not listening. You're too busy dealing with your solution, which is whooping your butt and being in conflict. And when I get through being in conflict and whooping my butt and being broke long enough, the heavens are going to open up and everything's going to work in my life because I have given myself my spanking.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then somebody like me comes along, oh, you suffering? Well, you can if you want to, but you don't have to. What? You don't have to. You can get the same lesson without the pain you're going through right now. No, you can't. Yes, you can. Yes, you can. Well, how? To recognize that if you can throw knowledge away right now, like some of you I might notice, you'll come to this class and you walk out of the class and you don't remember what I said. But you heard it. Not only heard it, in some cases you laughed and responded. So you know you heard it. It's like reading a book you read before and seeing highlights and you wonder who did it, but it was your own writing. And you go, I must have saw that last time. I was the one that did the highlight. So you had the knowledge, but you threw it away. And then he says, like, if you did that in the past, why is it so shocking to you that you might not still be doing it every day? getting knowledge, getting love, getting support, and then throwing it away. And don't even remember that somebody was really being nice to you and loving you, because right now you're determined to hurt. So to hurt, you've got to let go of all memories of support and love and blessings that come your way. Without that, with those memories, you couldn't suffer. So you have to go into amnesia about how much love is in your life when you've decided to punish yourself for a while.
Why would we want to do that?
Because we have learned that we're less than the perfect whole beings that we are. From the time we were born, nobody was generally saying you're a whole perfect being that's totally beautiful and I'm here for you all the time and please share your thoughts with me and you're totally safe. That's not usually what we get when we land. And on top of that, you'll get something like what I got. I was born in sin. I hadn't even done nothing. I just arrived and I screwed up. And I was like, that's not fair. And black too? Come on, God. You know? And when I was a kid, I thought like that. What's up, God? Jesus. You know, it was really deep when you were black. You know, you were being taught back in the 60s, you know, the white man was the problem in your life, and then you was going to church to pray to a blonde one.
Right.
Yep, like
Now that sounds like a rigged game to me. Then you begin to wake up and you realize it's not about, even though I doubt if he was in the part of the world he was born in, he had blonde hair. But anyway, we'll let that go.
Right.
But my point is, it doesn't matter. He said it. The past doesn't, what you learned in the past doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what is the image I'd like to project on Jesus today? What is the perception I'd like to have of Jesus today? What's the correct perception of the idea, the concept, the man, whatever it was of Jesus today? Not what I was taught as a child and using it as an excuse not to maybe get the help of an invisible being that's much more advanced than me that wants to help me than is me. So while I'm busy rebelling against the idea, I could get the solution to whatever it is I think that's bothering me from something greater than my own intelligence and something that has more power than me. Because I'm bad at what, that concept? When did you get it? When I was a kid? Well, you might want to let it go now. Is it serving you? No. So forgive Jesus. What does that mean? Let go of your perception of what you think that means for a minute. And then find out what the true perception of it might be, regardless of what you see on TV and cable and all the rest of the stuff. Make your own mind up about it, but don't just throw it out because of a programming you had as a child. And that's what I realized. I was like, wow, I made up an ego for God. I made up an ego for Jesus. I made up an ego for Buddha. I made up an ego for everything, and I'm living that ego I made up. And so now I'm going to allow this book to give, that's my path. Somebody else might choose something else. I'm going to allow this book to give me the new perceptions and new interpretations, which is full of, that I need to use in order to create a new perception that creates a new physical reality that comes from your perception. So I need to spend my time doing that rather than spend my time trying to analyze and debate about the credibility and the truth of what I just said to you. I'm willing to admit this much. My thinking is affecting how I'm seeing things, Earl, and I agree with that. So why don't you work on that rather than whether or not what I'm saying is correct? And then the book says, I'll tell you something else. I'll give you the ideas that will produce the results that you want. You don't even have to figure them out.
Oh, yes.
You know, what do you mean? Say I am spirit. Say I place the future in the hand of God. Say I'm entitled to miracles. Say I'm sustained by the love of God. Say I only see the past. Say I'm never upset for the reason I think. In other words, I'm giving you the ideas that will correct your perception and give you the new world you're looking for. You don't even have to figure that out. Well, what do you have to do? What do I have to do? Yes. Give it some attention and some study. Oh, I knew it was a catch. I'd much rather go and work 45, 50, 60 hours a week on a job I don't like than spend 2 minutes doing a workbook lesson because I don't have time. You so freaking busy? You don't have 2 minutes out of a whole day? That's busy. So you're going to make it. I don't care what you do. You're going to be loved. I don't care what you do. It's going to turn out in a loving, beautiful way for you no matter what you think, no matter what image you have of yourself. You're going to be helped. You're not alone. Everything's going to be all right. No matter how difficult you try to make it for yourself, you're going to be healed because you're loved by God. And I'm through now. Would you acknowledge yourself, Holy Spirit? Give it to you. Come on, your image. Give it to you. Let me have some. Let me have some. Let me practice my ability to receive. That was a good test. That was a good test. All right, let's do the financial expression of appreciation. I like that term. That sounds sweet. I really appreciate you all sharing and giving to yourself as me. Thank you. Thank you so much. All of my classes are on my website. All of my classes are on YouTube. Just Google my name and you can see these over and over again like a lot of people are doing. I'm available for personal sessions called clarity sessions, one-on-one sessions. Go to my website, www.earlpurdy.com, and it explains it completely. We can do a one-on-one with each other. It's available. Thank you for sharing, those of you online, and all of this correspondence I've been getting. And if you also like to share a financial expression of appreciation, you can do that at my website, because this is what I want to do. And so I have to be willing to allow myself to receive through what I love to do. I need to let go of this belief that what I love to do cannot bring me prosperity and abundance, but then I got to do all the things I don't like to do all day, and then everything I do love to do. So it's hard sometimes to allow yourself to receive money through what you do. You'll be amazed at the resistance you will have at allowing money to come to you through your talents. But you'll do it for somebody else. You'll go work 7 hours for Sears. Oh, you know what I'm saying? And don't think twice about it. But if somebody say, Earl, I want you to spend 2 hours working on your website and working on things that you could do to further your career, then the mind wants to go, what? But then I remember being a telephone repairman in ice and snow, beating ice off poles as I climbed up poles to fix somebody's phone who was at the bottom of the pole, cussing me out because I didn't get there 2 weeks ago and they were only dispatched me 15 minutes before I got there. I didn't know nothing about your 2 weeks ago call, but I'm the whole phone company, and I'm freezing, and I don't want to do this crap. I just took the terminal cover off, and it's a wasp nest in there, and I'm 50 feet up in the air. I must not be loving myself. I quit. And that's what happened. And then I started to do what I love. And it's been 27 years in, and I had never missed a rent payment. But the people constantly change. So something's been consistent. God. God. Because there's plenty of times when I didn't know where nothing was coming from. Too many times for it to be an accident. Maybe once or twice you could go, oh, I was just lucky. You don't do 27 years worth of accidents. Every week. Every week. Something's looking out. I always say, you pardon my French, I always say, something's looking out for my black ass. Like, something looking out for me. And then he says, well, if you want to keep that going, keep the correct perception, Purdy. So I keep on studying and keep on teaching. Because in this world, people don't say this to me too quickly. So I've got to make sure I hear the truth. I don't leave it up to other people and other things. Then I come to stuff like this to reinforce it. Because it makes your life work. And if it's not working, admit to yourself that there's something you're not applying that you're listening to. I don't care how much you say you are, you aren't. So take one idea and say, I'm going to work this idea to the max for the next 90 days. You know, just the idea, I'm making up the image I have of myself. I'm making up the way that I'm seeing this right now. You're making up the way you see things, and it's time for you to see things correctly. You are innocent. You are powerful. You're not alone. You can be happy. And it doesn't have to be 20 years in the future, after you graduate from this, after you get your degree in that. It could be now. It could be now. Do I know how? No. But to believe doesn't mean that you believe what the person is saying is true. The Course teaches that to believe is to mean that you're willing to side with the idea. So to believe me means I want to side with the idea Earl says I deserve love. I'm going to side with the idea that Earl says I'm innocent. And Earl said that the Course said I was unlimited. That's believing. So we don't understand believing means I'm going to go along with what you're saying. It doesn't mean, I don't know if it's true whether he says that or not. That's not about credibility. Belief has nothing to do with credibility. It has to do with, will you side with this idea? Will you join with the idea of your abundance? Will you join with the idea that you could have a love relationship beyond anything that you've ever had? Especially with a person that's standing up in front of you saying, I want to side with you on that. I'm on your side. Woo! I'm on your side. I'm on your side. I'm not the enemy. I'm on your side. Thank you. Love you. See you next time, Holy Spirit. Awesome being. Open the Tuesday night at 7 o'clock at The Way of Mastery. That's right. Is that pretty good? Okay.
Need more
Yeah, it's like.
I love that. Thank you. Thank you. That was intense.